All right, assignment 10 is our introduction to color processing in digital photography. And adding color to black and white photos is really almost as old as photography itself, from the 1830s on. But it's a lot more interesting than just taking one of your photos, converting it to black and white, and then just adding your own color. And what I enjoy about it most is if we can find public domain photos or photos from our family or black and white photos where we don't know what the true color was, like this public domain publicity still of Marilyn Monroe. We have to research and pick our colors to match them as best we can. And we're kind of creating a history, making aesthetic choices. So in this case, this was a family member, and you're able to ask your family for old photos, and then you're interested in what those true colors might be. And you can even research what that uniform's colors were and what the insignia's colors were. Or this old one. Or even photos that aren't perfect in terms of their focus, but they might have sentimental value to you. By adding color, you get to make them a little bit more engaging. Now, what makes for a good photo to colorize and a bad photo? It's really tough when the photo is overexposed or underexposed. So notice here, I assume his shirt has texture and it has folds, but because it was lit with a flash, all of that's just blasted out. And so when you add color, there's really no way to add that texture in. And so if it's a bad exposure, it's going to be tough to make it look like a good balanced photo. But it doesn't mean that color still can't add a lot of information and engagement. Whereas if it's a really nicely taken shot, like this studio portrait that's public domain, then even when you just do simple color, all the tones will really come out cleanly. So the gray values of the photo are going to enter into our project a lot. Now, what's a little bit difficult about this is any color choice we have to make. So if we look at this photo, there's reflections in the metal here, but we don't know what color those flowers are, what color the leaves are. So when we decide and we choose colors, we also have to put that color in the reflection. There's just a lot more to color than what we can see with just grayscale. It can be used to help separate out different elements. It can be used to give more individuality to different components, even though the faces might look very similar. It can be used to encourage and strengthen a focal point, like this dog. By having the warm colors in the middle and cool colors on the outside. And it can even be used to not represent reality, but to kind of create a heightened reality. Like an 80s sweater on Einstein. So, why are we focusing so much on color? What does that have to do with anything? In fine art photography today, a strong control of the color palette is just assumed. And sometimes photographs rely almost entirely on color. If you imagine this photo in just grayscale, it almost has nothing to grab you, to engage you. It has a lot to do with the complements of the kind of yellowish pinks and the reddish purples. Without color, a scene like this, which is using the phenomenology of color when you shoot, you can get certain angles with certain lenses that refract the light and create these color illusions right in your viewfinder and in your exposures without any manipulation in Photoshop. But with digital coloring, we have very true to life color, and that's very new to photography. That's really only since about the mid-90s that we have true digital clarity in color. And it allows us to do really, really saturated experiments. Before that, if you actually had color in your photographs, they were limited to the film you were using. And your lighting had a lot to do with that. But now control of color really has a lot to do with what your message is. So this is by a photographer that uses that phenomenology of color. His name's James Welling. And he'll often do shots that are just about how the natural light gets broken up into different colors. And he'll use a variety of different cameras to do this. And once we have full control of all of it, then we can really make our photos as effective as they can be in this day and age. No matter what we're shooting. All right. So, how do we go about it? First, we need to find a photo to use. And if you're using one that is in your own belongings, you want to scan it. But for me, I'm going to use this photo of Woody Guthrie. Now, why am I going to use this photo? First of all, it has a high enough resolution to print. So it's about 7 inches by 9 inches by 400 pixels per inch, which means it will print an 8 by 10 really well. It's around 10 megapixels. But how do I know that it's safe for me to use that photo as my own? Because I didn't purchase that photo. I didn't take that photo. So we can do what's called a Google image search. We look for images, and under search tools, we can look under usage rights. And we can say labeled for reuse. That's one place to start. And then we can search public domain black and white photos or photography. Now notice that a lot of these come from a site called publicdomainimage.com. And a lot of them come from Wikipedia. And then you just want to be sure. So if I like the look of this photo, it's a pretty neat photo. Old cars. If I'm into cars, that might be really good. I want to actually visit the page. And I want to make sure that it says public domain right on the page where I found it. And sure enough, it says royalty-free, public domain image, free stock photo. And the copyright is here. So it's not copyrighted, free for any use. You can use this picture. And that tells me that I'm perfectly safe using this. And if I really love what I've done, I can even put it in a calendar and sell it. It's public domain, it's free for me to do whatever I want with. And it might be because it was old enough that the copyright has lapsed, or it might be that the photographer gave it away, explicitly allowed it to be used in this way. So there are a few sites like that will allow for public domain images. The harder trick is knowing if they're large enough for you to use, because you want at least 10 megapixels. So the other search tool you can do is size, and you want to look for images that are larger than, I would say, 10 megapixels. And sure enough, there's Woody Guthrie, which is why I'm using his. Now don't just take Google's word for it. Find the site and make sure that the image is explicitly labeled as public domain. And not just like this, but actually going to the page. So click on it and say visit the page. So no known restrictions. Believed to be in public domain. So they can't guarantee it, but they're doing everything they can to check and are ensuring that it is. Flickr was set up as a Creative Commons site. So they're pretty good about researching the usage restrictions. All right. So once you have your photo, then you want to do another Google image search. And you can always just scan the image that is from your family. And this time we're going to search for old photos. And not too long ago, the Smithsonian discovered a lot of color photos, like actual color photos from the 1930s, the late 1920s, well before color photography was ever in popular use. And what's nice about them, for instance, if I'm doing a portrait of Louis Armstrong, even though I don't have the rights to this photo and even though it's too small, I want to save this because that's going to be fantastic reference in knowing kind of what colors existed in that time period. So I might want to find color photographs of Woody Guthrie. So I see lots of photographs of him. I have a color painting, that might be useful. I have an old 30s photograph, but I'm not as lucky as I would be with Woody Guthrie or with Louis Armstrong to have something that's actually him. But any photos from that time period, any fabrics, any skin tones, this looks like kind of a recreation. This is a hand-colored photograph of him. All of these might help. That's his son. So you want to start collecting color reference that you can use. Oh, this one will be good for the guitar. It's for skin tones here. Curious actually about where that one comes from. Looks like him. Oh, that's Pete Seeger. It looks like it's from a film. Yeah, the role of Woody Guthrie, but that might be useful. Okay, so now all of those kind of photos, and I can just keep doing research. And sure enough, we see some of these 1930s photographs which have great textures and skin tones. I'm going to open those in new tabs, and I'm going to start saving those into my folder. Even paintings can be helpful. Right? I will help those of you that have your black and white photos to scan. We will scan them to make sure that they're high enough resolution, at least 10 megapixels. And then the next demo, we'll set those up in Photoshop and figure out how we color them and learn how that applies or how it relates to hand coloring of black and white photos. I want to save these for next time. All right.